I hereby call the meeting of the Brockton City Council for Monday, November 9th, 7 p.m. to order. Please stand and join me in saluting our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would just like to remind everybody that all city council meetings are held in accordance with COVID-19 state guidelines. Just give me 1 second, Mr. Clerk. Okay. Mr. Clerk, item number 1.
We have the acceptance of the City Council minutes of October 26, 2020.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have the report of the Finance Committee for its meeting of November 2nd, 2020.
Accepted and placed on file.
The report of the Real Estate Committee for its meeting of October 28, 2020.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have the petition of Terrasol LLC Iron Woods for a retail marijuana license located at 702 North Montello Street, Brockton.
Time having arrived, I declare this hearing open. Is there anyone here in favor? If so, please come forward and state your name to the clerk.
Good evening, Bishop Tony Branch, 25 Montello Street, Extension, Brockton, Massachusetts.
Good evening, Bishop Branch. Do you have a statement?
I do. May I?
Of course. Yeah.
Can you imagine that the men and women that look like Ian Woods are African Americans that arrived to this shore only to be put into slavery for 405 years to toll the land of America for free? Can you imagine that men and women like Ian Woods were able to, after slavery, would have what we would call the Black Wall Street, that would be burnt down and black people would be murdered, not to receive any restitution, people that look like Ian Woods? Can you imagine the people like Ian Woods who wanted education, a better education, only to have a backdrop of segregation in the South, requiring us to have a legal order from the Supreme Court in Brown versus the Board of Education? Can you imagine the people that look like Ian Woods would require the Voting Rights Act? Because although black men were able to vote under the 15th Amendment, they weren't allowed to do so, requiring the Voting Rights Act of 1965 so people of color could vote. Could you imagine that people like Ian Woods would want to have a mortgage and to buy a home, but the act of the federal government under the Federal Housing Administration would say that they would not insure mortgages of African American men and women? Can you imagine that we wanted better schools in the city of Boston, but it would require a federal judge, Judge Garrity, to desegregate the Boston public schools? Could you imagine in 1994, when we all were suffering the crime that was running rapid because of the crack epidemic, that we all supported the 1994 crime bill, which resulted in the highest number of African-American men and women arrested and incarcerated, some with continuing issues as a result of those bills? Can you imagine that? Today, the city of Brockton can make history. With respect to the cannabis industry, $2 billion is what was reported last week. $2 billion, and we've received less than 1% of that. Today, this city that is majority black, and it's okay to say that, we all are welcomed here, that is majority black, this city that had some of the highest rates of arresting African-American men and women and Latinx, Dominicans and Republicans, Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, excuse me, not the Republicans weren't arrested. Can you imagine that today this city has an opportunity to make history in terms of granting people like me, people like Brother Ian Woods, who are the descendants of a nation that has never economically allowed us to prosper? You can change the tide of that attitude in this Commonwealth across this country. I support Ian Woods, and I'm asking that my brothers and sisters on this Brockton City Council do the same. God bless you.
Thank you, Bishop Branch. Is there anyone else here in favor? If so, please come forward and state your name to the clerk. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Coach Bree Nichols. I am a resident of Brockton at 16 Bunker Ave, Brockton, Mass. Hello, Brockton City Councilors and Mayor. My name is Bree Nichols. I am writing in support of Ian Woods. I believe that Ian should not be delayed any further in obtaining his City Council license to open up Terrasol LLC at 702 North Montello Street, Brockton, Mass. 02301. He should be immediately approved and promised as a Brockton and Commission-approved social equity and economic empowerment applicant. Furthermore, it is quite evident that there is a license still available. Commonwealth Alternative Care Host Community Agreement has expired and does not have a special permit. Lastly, I want to caution against any pay-to-play in Brockton, as this is illegal. We've heard that Gregory Maynard, the husband of Chief of Staff Kerry Richards, has been hired by a lobbying group, Novus Group and MLM Strategy. These lobbying groups have been directly involved with the mayor's campaign and with helping CAC get a license in Brockton. It'd be highly inappropriate for Ian Woods to be denied and CAC to be eventually approved, especially with Ian Woods being forced to go through the municipal steps and being a Brockton resident. I appreciate your consideration of Ian Woods. Thank you, Coach Bree Nichols.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Maria here that's cleaning up at the podium after each speaker, so thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else here in favor? Please come forward and state your name. Thank you.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. As we all know, my name is Ian Woods. I'm a proud Brocktonian, as well as a social equity applicant. I have a 60% interest in Terrasol, and my partner Milton has a 40% interest. We are here for City Council approval under Section 27-24.4, subsection 7B by Terrasol LLC, a Massachusetts limited liability company, for a retail marijuana dispensary at 702 North Montello Street. We have secured funding from local banks and financial companies in order to fund the establishment of this business, including the renovation of the existing structure. We are not proposing to do any alterations to the site. We will be enhancing the green space with a few low-height plantings per CCC regulations. As you know, the ordinance committee under the Councilor Sullivan limited the amount of licenses to 8 licenses. Under section 1.0072B, second paragraph says, when no completed application is available for review by the City Council, then the Brockton City Council shall review the next complete application from either group. There were 2 licenses required for RMDs, and by definition of the RMDs, under CMR 725-.100, that acquires, cultivates, or otherwise sells, distributes, or administers marijuana, they must comply with that requirement for that, to apply for that license, which there is no company. So we have submitted a complete application to the Brockton City Council, and we were advised to pay a $500 fee, which is instead of the required $300 fee, and we don't really understand that, but we just wanted to let everybody know that as well. Our Cannabis Control Commission application is deemed complete, and all management and operations profile packets, background packets, and Cannabis Control Commission packets have been submitted. We were approved by the Technical Review Committee, Planning Board of Approvals, as well as the Zoning Board of Approvals, and have a valid special permit. We have also supplied the council with the lease and have listed all other uses of the property. I would like to thank everybody tonight for their time, the consideration, and the countless amount of hours we've exerted in this. At this moment, I'll leave it open for any comments or concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Counselor Cardoso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my fellow councilors, we're here tonight to vote on a retail marijuana license. Should I stand? You can sit there. I can sit? Okay, thank you. I'll sit. I prefer to sit. That, contrary to what you have heard or learned, is available in the city of Brockton. This license is available. The now famous license number 8, which I'm calling it, is available tonight for us to vote on. And if the applicant in front of us, Mr. Ian Woods, has a current host agreement and has gone through all the proper steps in the application process to get this to us, it is our duty to grant this license. Now, there has been some conversations around violating our own ordinance if we were to issue this license, and that the RMD, Commonwealth Alternative Care, is quote-unquote grandfathered in. Yet, so that's the conversation, but yet we have violated our own ordinance on many occasions, including when we granted only 1 license in the downtown area when our ordinance states that there should be 2. We violated our ordinance when we granted 5 licenses outside of the downtown when our ordinance calls for 4. And we are now trying to violate our ordinance by not giving this license to Mr. Woods and by giving it to an establishment that was not operational prior to July 1st, 2017. And this establishment has delayed going through the process because they have had some issues that have landed them in trouble with the CCC that they're currently working through. And in reference to being grandfathered in, there is no grandfather clause that I'm aware of in the Mass Law 94G. Sorry, I missed my train of thought. Okay, so under that law, the applicants have to go through the same process. They have to be granted a host agreement, and they have to come in front of the council. Commonwealth Alternative Care does not have a current host agreement. Their agreement expired in 2018, and they have not been in front of this council that I'm aware of. There is no reason we should be holding on to a license for a non-SE applicant when we have an SE applicant, one of our very own residents from this city, that is prepared to obtain his license tonight. If we're genuinely interested in equity in this city, which is a majority minority city, majority black city, we must do the right thing tonight and grant this license. Furthermore, this city lost a discrimination lawsuit very recently. If we're going to prepare for a lawsuit from Commonwealth who has not gone through the proper process to obtain a license, then we must be prepared to go through a social equity applicant, a black man who is going to sue this city as well if we don't get this license. And he has a much better case than Commonwealth. Let me remind you that the council, that we granted 5 white applicants their licenses with conditions, and the 1 minority applicant with a current host agreement, we postponed hers and had her come back. So it seems like we just continue to make mistakes on this council, and we don't want to correct our mistakes. Voting no on this tonight sends a message that we're not learning from past mistakes. Voting yes on this tonight sends a message that we care about equity, and that, you know, it sends a message that this body represents the people of this great city, that we fight against pay-to-play politics and catering to outside investors, have invested relationship in people in the mayor's office. I urge my colleagues to vote with me and vote yes and grant this license tonight.
Thank you, Tim.
Counselor, before we move on with the hearing, continue with the hearing, I would just like to remind everybody the reason we can have these hearings is because we adhere by COVID-19 state guidelines, which means you need to sit 6 feet apart and wear your masks while you're in council chambers. Otherwise, we lose the ability to have these hearings publicly. So unless you came together, please sit 6 feet apart. There's plenty of room on the back benches.
And thank you, Madam Chair.
Counselor, you're welcome, Counselor. Any other counselors have any? Counselor Ianieri.
Thank you, Madam President. Before we continue on, I do want to hear from our legal counsel in regards to the license with Commonwealth Alternative, which was grandfathered in, and was grandfathered in as well as when we had In Good Health. Those 2 licenses were grandfathered in. As far as I know and other members of this council know, is that license is still belonging to Commonwealth Alternative until everything is worked out with them. And at this point, and everybody knows where that's located. It's located in Ward 3, right in the district right up there, close to In Good Health is located as well. And it is a medical marijuana / recreational marijuana, and it was all done all before the recreational piece even really came into play, that they were already going into that location. So I just want to hear from our legal counsel in regards to everybody saying that this license is available, but it in my mind, it is not available. And I mean, I want to be fair to everybody, but I mean, I'm just not going to, put out and give out a license because of. I mean, we just don't have the right just to take away someone else's license. And if we do, yeah, Councilor Cardozo is right. We'll have a lawsuit, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. We'll add to the other lawsuits we got before the city, and it'll be something that'll end up in the mayor's lap. He might not be too proud of it, but he's going to have to deal with it. But anyhow, if you could, Attorney Shannon, Attorney Resnick, give us an update in regards to this license.
So Commonwealth Cares does have a medicinal license that they obtained prior to July 1 of 2017. So that does include them in the grandfather license status and priority status within the city. I conferred with Solicitor Bridges, and her and I both agreed that that did not give them a right to sit on their license and not do anything to act on it. But their provisional license is likely to be acted upon for retail marijuana by the CCC within the next 2 months. They were on September or October's agenda, so they are presently pursuing that license actively. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention too about not having a special permit, I believe the zoning ordinance that was passed by this council exempts those requirements for the medicinal sites because they already went through all of that process when they were obtaining their medicinal licenses. So yes, we believe that it's still an allocated license for
Okay. If I might,
Cares.
Madam Attorney, then, and I don't mean to be putting you on any type of a spot, then what would be your recommendation to us here as a body this evening as we have this hearing before us, and what type of action should we continue to take?
You have two
I don't want to be
options.
taking a license away. I mean, of course, we want to be able to do what we can to help in this situation, but I mean, I want to do it the right way. I want to be fair to everyone that's involved.
You have two options, to deny the license outright. I'm not sure what that does to the applicant's status with the CCC. Or the other option would be to table it, maybe to the end of the year, and to see whether or not Commonwealth Care gets approval for their retail license from the CCC, because I guess it's always possible that they do not. I have, from what I've read, it looks like they will be approved. So you can do either one. It's the will of the council on that issue.
So in other words, probably the thing to do in our best interest would be, if we're looking to continue further, I mean, I would think that this body would probably want to postpone the situation that's before us and be, right up front with the person, looking for and applying for. That does not mean that he will not receive, because he can receive, especially if the situation turns differently for Commonwealth Alternative come December, January, I would say, which is only, you're talking 2 months away, maybe 2.5 months away. That still leaves it wide open, that he would still be able to come back before us and obtain a license. Am I correct at that point?
I thought, my understanding that they were going to hear within 2 months from the October meeting. So that's kind of how I get to the December deadline, but it could be longer. But you could always continue it to the last meeting of December. Your calendar doesn't end because you're only in year one. So if you had to move it beyond that at the December meeting, you could. Right.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to be fair. I mean, I know it's, sometimes it's difficult to do that in this city with some things that we have going on, but we try to do it, and I think that we're being reasonable here. And I understand, what you're looking to do, and no one's trying to we're not trying to slight anybody here in this particular situation. But we also have something that's before us that was before us since, 2017, and I mean, rightfully so. They're still actively alive. This license is still actively alive, as you heard the attorney mention. At that point, as she's mentioned, I mean, we'll know a little better what's going on with that come, December to January, and then if anything, we'd be able to, grant that license, possibly maybe be able to give you that license at that point. There was something mentioned the other evening when we were here for ordinances that somebody indicated, well, we can apply for, 3 or 4 more licenses. Well, we don't know that for sure. I mean, we haven't figured that situation out. Remember, we talked that the other night at the ordinance meeting.
About extending the license
Extending
number?
the license,
Yep, so
yeah.
the council can submit, you don't have it before you, so you can't just assume that it's going to happen, but any of you could submit a proposed ordinance to increase the number of retail licenses.
Right. Well, I just think, I just think that's the fair way to do it. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. I just want to be fair, reasonable to all. Has nothing to do, believe me, has nothing to do with what color code or creed or who we are. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever. We just have to be fair because we're in a situation here in the city where we're only given X amount to work with. Unfortunately, when the ordinance was put into place, it took some time to do the ordinance. I was council president then, and the people I had appointed to do this work on the ordinance committee did whatever they could in their very best interest. And there was another time when there was a little bit of a sidestep on the ordinance, which shouldn't have happened for another local business, and I wasn't too keen on that either, but it happened. But in this case, I mean, I just want to keep it. I just want to keep it, fair to everyone, and hope that you understand that this is probably what could be happening, is that we end up postponing and keeping it alive that way so that you can be back in front of us, come end of December or January. That's what we're looking at. But I just wanted to thank you, Madam Chairman.
All set, Counselor? Counselor Cardoso.
I have a question for Attorney
Resnick, okay.
Resnick. So is it Commonwealth Alternative Care has to come back in front of this council for final approval on their retail license, correct?
That's true, but the council has very limited ability to say no to their license. I think when In Good Health came up, I pretty much said, you have to give it.
Okay, and they have...
In 2018, when our ordinance was drafted, the only applicants that had a priority or reservation towards those licenses were R&Ds.
Okay, and they have to have a current host agreement, correct?
Yes, they would need a current host agreement, but then my conversations with the solicitor, I believe that will happen, similar to the other licenses that the council approved. I think there were 4 that were subject to host agreements being extended. Theirs would be as well.
Okay, and so you're saying that the law is not correct when it states that an RMD has to be operational. A medical marijuana facility has to be operational before July 2017 in order to obtain the license. So Commonwealth was not operational before July 1st, 2017. They opened up in 2018 in Taunton. They're not opened here in Brockton. So I want the councilors to understand that. In fact, when you look them up on the CCC website, it says they have cultivating and processing in Taunton, and they're dispensing in Taunton. So they're not opened here. I want the councilors to be clear on that.
That license status is determined by the CCC. It's not our right as the city council to challenge it. If they have that license with the CCC, that's what we have to go by.
Okay, Mr. Woods, do you have any?
Yes. So I have a permit. In Good Health was required to go through the municipal steps and get a permit. Under the CMR as well, they're required to have an active permit. They do not have an active permit. And why would they still be reserved when it says in the regulations that they need to have an active permit? And the only one I have right here, and this is the only copy, it's In Good Health. They're the only medical treatment center as of now.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they are a recreational.
Okay, I'm sorry, hang on. You can give it
You
to
gotta
our
ask them if
clerk,
you can
sir.
approach, yeah.
Sir. I'm sorry, you can give it to the clerk. What are you giving him? Is that? Okay,
Commonwealth has not went through the municipal steps.
okay. Thank you. Do you need this? Council, we'll take a look at it. Thank you. I know Councilor Cardoso, were you all set?
I wanted to look at the,
Sure, you can, go ahead. We can't have everybody moving all throughout the chambers.
And then there's another part in here under section 1.002B, second paragraph. When no completed application is available for review by the city council, then the Brockton City Council shall review the next complete application. There is no complete application with Commonwealth.
I know we have councilors that have questions. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. Woods, for appearing this evening. You're making some legal arguments right now that it's kind of difficult to weigh those legal arguments. I may be an attorney, but I'm not a municipal law attorney, nor am I had a process in drafting this ordinance. I think your questions are valid, and I think we as a council need to have a better understanding of, where are we exactly, to answer your questions, right? You're stating, as is Councilor Cardoso, that this license is potentially available. We just heard from our city council attorney who's saying that it is not available. I think, we need to find out the answer to these questions. I don't know if we're going to have those answers tonight. I think I agree with Councilor Ian Airy that this matter is probably best to be continued until the end of December so that we can sit down with our council, sit down with the city solicitor so that we can answer these questions because, again, we want to be fair. If this license is, as they say, reserved or prioritized for this other entity, then I don't believe we as a council have the authority to give it to somebody else. If it is available, as you say, and there are some exceptions, and it may be available, well, I think it's only best for us as a council to fully understand that issue, and we're going to have to do that with consultation of both our city council attorney and our city solicitor. So if this matter, if it's the will of this council to continue this matter, then I request that that our city solicitor also participate at that hearing so that we can so that she can be prepared to answer some of these questions as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. And I know, Mr. Woods, you brought up some comments, but our legislative council has already spoken on the matter, so we can move forward with the hearing. If councilors have, we're not going to, answer, as councilors have stated, we'll take a look at this down the line, but as far as this evening goes, we're moving forward with the hearing. Any other councilors have questions that haven't spoken already? Councilor Nicastro, followed by Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for being here this evening, Mr. Woods, gentlemen. My comment is to all my colleagues. I understand what's unclear about this, but I don't think it's fair to hold this number 8 license open forever or without an end date in sight. I would like to see us consider writing to CAC, having our legislative council get in touch with them and give them a deadline. I'd like to see, more of a date certain, an idea of, if you don't have it by this date, we would like to continue on. Some date in January, perhaps, but we need to know. I think for the sake of fairness, we need to do something. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, actually. Ian, I just had a question on you, on the actual application.
Yes.
I didn't catch your partner's name. Is it Milton Nasiopoulos?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I see that in there. And you own 60 and you own 40%? And are you both going to be employees?
Yes.
You'll both be, so you'll be the general manager?
Yes.
And have you hired a security manager yet?
We've contracted with the group, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm getting old.
Yes, we've contracted with the group, yes. Yes, we have security.
And what's a company or a person? Who is that?
So we have professional police experience background. They're going to be the lead on our security team, and they've addressed all security aspects to the zoning. But did you want the specific name of
Name of the company?
Yeah, so we've actually worked with two groups. One is Sergeant Souza. He doesn't have a company, but this is one of our leads. And there's another gentleman, I won't list him now, but he's another one who has experience, who has the background to run our security programs.
Okay, Sergeant Souza is he an active police officer or?
Retired.
Retired. You know, I don't think that's giving us that name is a definite in the license most of the people had given us, and I just wanted to know. And Milton, you're a Brockton resident also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had on the license application. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lally.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you guys for coming. I just want to say, you know, you're both known and recognized as, you know, people engaged and involved in the community. It's clear you have some community support, as evidenced by the crowd. Up until recently, I wasn't sure either, and I know this is echoing some of my colleagues. I wasn't sure that we actually had a license because of that weird sort of relationship with Commonwealth. I'm not aware of the full extent of what's going on with that. The medical marijuana licenses were done before I joined this body, but I think that we need answers on this. I really do, because if Commonwealth has a legal claim to that license, then Commonwealth has a legal claim to that license. But if Commonwealth does not, I am much more inclined to support this application over Commonwealth's, because this applicant has clear community support. They have community engagement. You know, people have contacted me about this license, including the applicants, time after time. This is not some sort of fire and forget operation coming in from some other part of the country. So I think that it would be prudent for this body to make sure, very sure, of everybody's footing, so as not to do something now that leads to a problem down the line. I would agree with Councillor Inieri's desire to postpone this, so legal counsel, city solicitor, everybody involved has an opportunity to really tear this apart. I think that, you know, we need to make sure there's no questionable relationships for anybody associated with this city, especially in a leadership or governing role, with a body like Commonwealth or an applicant like yours. Fair's fair. But I do believe that we're best off with the postponement. If push comes to shove and we do not postpone, I would vote for this applicant. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilors. Councilors, we seem to have gone a little bit off track with the hearing normally, and we would hear everyone that's here in support of this applicant, everyone that's in support, and then afterwards, and whoever's not in favor, and then we would have the questions from the councilors. So how about we continue with the hearing, and then we come back to the councilors' questioning, so we can move with the hearing. How does that works? So we're going to continue, Mr. Woods. If you have any other, any comments to make, and then we can move forward with the hearing.
Oh, yeah, she gotta wipe it down.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. My name is
Good
Milton
evening.
Esiopoulos. I'm the business owner in Brockton. I own a house in Brockton. I have a farm in Brockton. I've been here my whole life. Ian and I have been working on this for a while, but not as long as some of the other applicants that have gone through. They've had a good 6 months to 9 months to get through, and we're pretty much only like 2 months behind from what the other applicants had gone through. We did this with no lawyers. We did this by ourselves, me and Ian, working day and night on this. And, you know, I see like a company like Commonwealth, I mean, they've got 3 years to do this. And we were able to do it in what, less than a year? With no lawyers, no nothing, like barely any money. And we ended up getting this done, and we got financing for it, and we started from nothing. And you got these multi-million-dollar companies, 3 years trying to do this, and they're stroking the city along, saying, oh, we're gonna get it, we're gonna get it. I know the CCC. I've been studying this industry for years. I own a hydroponic store in Brockton, and I know the industry, and I know the CCC. It could be a year before they approve Commonwealth. It could be 3 months, it could be next week. But are we gonna sit here for a year? We have an application that's completely full and ready to go. It's complete, and Commonwealth does not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nasiopoulos. Anybody else here in favor, please come forward and state your name to the clerk.
Good evening. Michael O'Donnell, 226 Ames Street. Councilor Thompson, with all due respect, I'm not a lawyer either. I don't play one on TV. But your definitions in your ordinance are very specific. And it says 75% of the recreational marijuana retail licenses shall be reserved for establishments located in a C2 zoning district. 25% of the recreational marijuana retail licenses shall be reserved for establishments to be located in a C3 zoning district. Registered marijuana dispensaries, provisionally licensed no later than July 1st, 2017, are exempt from these provisions. That just means that if they apply, and with all due respect to council, it's not a slam dunk. They have to apply the same way that everybody else had to apply. If you read your own ordinances, which are so crazy on some of them, your definitions say that Commonwealth, at this point, today, could not qualify. They are not actively engaged in selling, producing, manufacturing marijuana in Brockton. They have never been open. So for 3 years, they have sat here and sat on this license, and I don't believe that they have been licensed by the city of Brockton. Is that accurate, council? City solicitor? Can we ask the city solicitor questions?
This is our legislative council.
Right.
The city solicitor is not here this evening.
So our legislative council, the assistant...
At this point, council's has answered all the questions.
Okay, so through you, Madam President, could you ask how Commonwealth would be grandfathered where in Ordinance 210 or 370 in these 33 pages that somehow Commonwealth is grandfathered?
So we will ask these questions, Mr.
Okay,
O'Donnell.
and additionally, if you could ask through council if the requirements and the definitions of conversion RMDs, which is paragraph 5 of your definitions in your ordinance, which is on page 2 of 210, and it says conversions, RMDs registered no later than July 1st, that engage in the cultivation, manufacture, sale of marijuana or marijuana products or marijuana establishment for the adult use engaged in the same type of activity shall be subject to these regulations. If they're not engaged in this city doing this type of product, how can they now claim that they have a right? A right. Anywhere you read these regulations, if somebody says that there's a grandfather word in here, if there's a we're saving this for, it just says that they're exempt from being in these 2 districts. It doesn't say anything that they have a right to those 2 licenses. I mean, this is a pretty simple thing. We're not being lawyers. I understand there's all types of class action suits that could happen. I understand the discriminations. That's not the point here. We have a Brocktonian, a man who came before the council, did everything you required. There is nothing in this ordinance that says that, hey, if you come through here, and you did everything that's here, that we are not going to approve you. You have no, if you look at this or these ordinances, there is no reason that you can deny this man a license. I mean, if through you, Madam President, if you could ask your counsel, this is an attorney who represents the city of Brockton, with all due respect for the council, but she's also an assistant city solicitor, representing us Brocktonians.
Mr. O'Donnell, I just would like to correct that. Our legislative counsel is strictly, this is not the city solicitor.
He's not the assistant city solicitor?
No, that is in the law department, so. the
Okay, I stand
assistant
corrected, but she's
the
still
city
paid for
solicitor's
by
not
the
here.
city of Brockton residents to help us. I mean, this is us.
As part of this,
I'm not looking to beat a drum. I think that this is a real simple thing. If there's some place that your legislative council can say, hey, they're grandfathered, right here it says these people can get a license. Because if you read your regulations, your ordinance, it says they're exempt from being in these two districts. Because what happened was, originally, the In Good Health and Commonwealth were allowed to go in industrial areas. All this does is say they don't have to be in C2, C3. So I would respectfully request the councilors that are here to sit down and say, listen, we have to do what's right by a Brocktonian, and if somebody says that they have a right to sue when they weren't open, when they weren't provisional, when they never had a license from the city, when they never got a special permit, I think you have a lot better chance than somebody that's standing before you where your own ordinance says you shall act upon the next application. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
is there anyone else here in favor that would please come forward and state your name to the clerk?
Hello, my name is Jamal Brathwaite, and I'm the president of the Northeast Brockton Neighborhood Association. I support this application for Terrasol LLC to receive this license to open up a retail marijuana dispensary in the city of Brockton. It's my understanding that they've gone through every single step in the process, and my understanding also is that this company that everyone speaks about, the Commonwealth, has no legal right to this license opportunity. My understanding is that there is no reference to grandfather in any legal documentation, but yet this word keeps being used for some reason. Can I please ask why? Why? Who came up with this word grandfather? Who was the first person to introduce this into the conversation? Okay. Well, I support this application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else here in favor? If so, please come forward and state your name to the clerk. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I know we're having a show down here. Everybody's nervous. Everybody's energetic. That's good. That's good, because that's what makes Brockton what it's Brockton. Energetic. People are diversity. People of, great passion.
State your name to the clerk, please.
My apologies, Madam President. My name is Jimmy J. Valentin. I am from 146 Saltell Ave, from Ward 6 of Brockton. We have a person, where he went. We have an applicant. We have someone who wants to take his business to the level, to succeed in his life, in his career, to make sure that he has a purpose as well, like every Brockton citizen has. We are nervous. We are skeptical. We have many, many questions. But I'm here today to support this young man because he has an application that is put forth, so let us grant him that. Like Councilor Lally said, let's support this, even if we have to postpone it. Make sure he's first in line. Because in the end of the day, Brockton is built on hope, opportunity, education, and industrialization. Let's give this man that opportunity to open his own business in the great city of Brockton. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in favor? If so, please come forward and state your name to the clerk. If not, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Is there anyone here in opposition? If so, please come forward and state your name to the clerk. Is there anyone here in opposition? If not, I declare that. Sure, Counselor Cruz.
Can I have some?
Okay.
Thank you. I'm looking at, in your business plan, startup expenses and capitalization, which come to $1,789,000. But I also see $20,000 cash on hand. Where does the rest of that come from?
So once we're provisional licensed, we'll actually get funding from banks, loans, 0% interest loans that will actually.
No, I'm under the impression that banks won't work with
There's
because
Bay
of the
Coast,
federal.
Federal Gardner Credit Union, there's Bay Coast, there's multiple banks that are allowing, and we've already contacted with them. They're literally waiting on us to reply back.
You've already met with them,
Yes, they have all our documents. They're waiting for the
but they haven't given you any.
They're waiting for the municipal response.
Okay, because that you'd have to borrow what, $1,760,000.
And a lot of it is product costs, and once we're provisional, the companies are willing to actually give us the product up front and then work with it. So these are costs that were brought up in 2017. Like the other companies, you said they were chasing this since 2017. This is for everybody. Myself, I've been a victim of the war since 2013. I could easily go to 2004. So this has been a long, ongoing achievement of.
And what's the name of the bank that is? There is one. What'd you say the name of the bank is?
Bay Coast. There's Bay Coast. They're in Swansea. There's also Federal Gardner and Gardner, Mass.
Federal. I'm sorry. What?
Federal Gardner Credit Union.
Federal Gardner. That's just my own, because I know that most banks won't deal with any of this.
It's Gardner. It's Gardner Federal Credit Union. Sorry.
Gardner Federal. Because one of the things we have looked at is the financial viability of everyone, because it doesn't do anybody, the city or yourself, any good to grant a license and have you not able to stay open. And then I will ask a question that one of the other councilors asked everybody: do you have any intention of? Are you in this for the long haul, or are you looking to sell the license?
Yes, we're here for the long haul.
Okay. That's all I have, Counselor.
Counselor Rodriguez.
I have one.
There's a list, Counselor. I have a list of counselors, Counselor Cardoso.
Madam President, sorry. Could I reply a little bit?
Sure, please come forward to the microphone and reply. Maria, you want to wipe it down, please?
Oh, please, thank you.
I just wanted to reply a little bit to your question there. The numbers that you have for the cost is what Ian's in a social equity program, so he takes classes, and they basically take the average of like what it costs to build out one of these facilities, and that's where that 1 point something million comes from. When you look at our plans that we had gone through with the zoning and everything and the planning board, where the amount of changes to the building is so minimal, we're literally just taking out a garage door and we're putting in a storefront. And we've got 2 walls going in, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that. Our build out, including the security systems and everything, the POS systems, carpet, everything, is less than $200,000. It's already an established retail store. It literally almost needs nothing. The security system is actually the biggest cost. So our build out is going to be roughly $200,000 or less. And once we get to the point where we're licensed, we also have agreements with companies that are cultivating the marijuana, and they can extend us credit. So we don't even need to buy the product up front. They would extend us like a 30-day credit. They would deliver the product to us. And, you know, I mean, by the time we sell it, we have the money to pay them, which is how I run all my retail businesses. I never buy my inventory. With my other businesses that I have, I buy it on credit. And I have a credit score of almost 800, and we've already talked to these companies. We literally will be up and running for less than $200,000. That was just a guideline from the CCC, the 1.7 million.
Okay, so,
So we might not even use financing. We might actually be able to do this on our own. I do own a security company that does security systems and cameras and stuff. So all the security equipment, we get wholesale. It's very inexpensive for us to do this project.
and your state license, they approve they actually review the security, correct?
Yes.
And you have the state.
I did I did the layout for all the cameras and the security system, and that's already been approved, both by the city of Brockton and by the state.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nasiopoulos. All right, Councilor Rodriguez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. After conferring with our counselor, I am going to make two motions. And I think we are at that stage, right?
Well, I still have a few councilors that have
Well,
questions.
we can have discussions
On the motion.
during, the hearing is still going.
Correct, yeah.
So do you want to close that part so we can go to the next phase of it?
Sure, but
Because we've already done those in favor, those against, so
Right.
technically you can close that aspect and we can open it up to discussions amongst ourselves.
discussions, correct.
All right.
So anybody else here in opposition? If so, come forward and state your name to the clerk. Seeing none, that portion of the hearing is closed. Councilors, did you want to speak on this, or do you want to
Yes.
let the other council?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Madam President, I think it's only fair in hearing Councilor Nicastro and some of the other councilors in the room that we basically put the Commonwealth Cares feet to the fire in the sense and basically give them a period of where they come in front of this body with a complete application. So that being said, I would like to make a motion that we give Commonwealth Care a month. December 14th is our next council meeting, the council meeting in December, to give them a month to submit a complete application to this body. Failure to do so, then that application shall be given to the next complete applicant.
Second.
On the motion.
Just, that was a motion, right?
That was in the form on the motion. Councilor Thompson?
Yes. Now, you're stating that you spoke with legislative counsel that's...
That we can make that motion.
That we have the authority to revoke if they don't have their...
Well, through the chair, we are the licensing authority, and we being the licensing authority have the authority to demand of what we want from our license. Therefore, if we're the licensing authority, we can put stipulations to whatever we want to because we are the licensing authority. And that's a requirement that we can come up and basically say, look, you got X, Y, and Z. Since there's all kinds of questions in terms of whether or not they have been grandfathered, not grandfathered, granddaughtered, or whatever they've been done, I think we basically have to move this process forward because it's not fair to the city of Brockton nor to some of the applicants that have gone through this process for us to continue to hold on to a license just in case they decide to go forward and bring this forward. This way here, they're a corporation, they have the ability to do this. They've got a month. If they're this close, they should be able to come in front of this body within a month and say, here's my complete application. And failure to do so, it'll become null and void. We can move on to the next step.
Understood.
I'll just comment. So Solicitor Bridges and I had already discussed this morning that we did intend to inform Commonwealth Cares that they had a set duration of time to submit an application to the City Council. And if you want me to instruct them 30 days, I'm happy to take that back. Yeah.
Okay. Understood. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
On the
Councilor.
motion.
So on the motion,
And then I have
Council-
another motion that I'd like
Well,
to make.
we
to
did
postpone.
have councilors that had questions beforehand, as stated, Councilor
No,
Rodriguez.
let's do
But,
this one and then we can do the other one, ma'am.
Councilor Monahan, I know did you still have a question?
He's actually,
Okay,
I was the same,
perfect.
I was on him, I said, give him a month and that's it, but
Okay,
you did it
Couns-
good enough.
Okay. Councilor Cardoso, I know you had,
Okay, so on this motion, I would like to caution the council that Mr. Ian Woods' host agreement is going to expire soon. So I am open to any postponement or on this motion with stipulations that we extend his host agreement. And I know that the mayor's the only one that can do that, but my fear is that Mr. Ian Woods will walk out of this room today, and then his host agreement will not be extended. So we need guarantee that it will be extended before we entertain either of these motions.
So there is a motion on the floor, and it was properly seconded. Now, you can amend that motion.
So I'd
Counsel.
like
Is
to
that what
amend
you're-
that motion to include.
We didn't vote on
No?
it yet.
We can act on the motion, okay. We're going to act on the motion. Counselor Rodriguez is,
Well, Madam Chair, Madam President, whether or not we can extend the community host agreement is really not up to this body. It's up to the mayor. So we can't basically, again, we gave a license 2 months ago to a bunch of applicants without community host agreements. So there's nothing that prevents this body to award a license to an applicant without a community host agreement, because we did that with the other applicants. So there's nothing wrong that precludes us from doing that. So I believe this is basically a way to remedy this situation, because if the Commonwealth is under the impression that they've got a free license forever and ever, amen, at least we basically kind of pull them back into the fray here to come to this body before the end of the year and present themselves as a real applicant for this particular process.
so your motion, Counselor, so, I'm sorry, the hearing is over. Sure, but can you, your motion, Counselor Rodriguez? Counselor Rodriguez? Your motion, please. So it is
All right.
to,
A motion to give Commonwealth Care until December 14th, which is that first city council meeting here in the city, a month to submit a complete now, listen to my words here, a complete application to the city council. Failure to do so, we shall give the 8th license to the next completed application.
On the motion again? Sorry.
on the motion, Counselor.
We're not here to deliberate Commonwealth's application. We're here to either approve or not grant or not grant Terrasol's application. So I don't think that we should be motioning to do anything with Commonwealth during this hearing. The hearing is for...
Councilors, that is, so right now, what is before us is the applicant, that is true, but Councilor Rodriguez made a motion, it was properly seconded, so either, Councilor, do you want to withdraw your motion, or are we moving forward?
Because I'm going to make another motion.
Call for a vote.
Okay. The roll has been called. Madam Clerk, please, a roll call vote, please. Sure. Councilor Rodriguez, the reason I had you repeat your motion is because you didn't tie it to this hearing. Do you want to continue? Is this a continuation of this hearing?
I had two motions, that's why.
Okay, so we're voting on the first one.
The first motion would result in me informing Commonwealth Cares that they have
Correct.
until December 14th to submit a full application before the full city council.
And then I was going to make a motion to postpone this meeting.
The hearing part is over, please. Right now, let Councilor Rodriguez, please.
Well, Madam, I think you might want to take a vote on that, on the request
That's what we're doing,
first,
yes.
And then I'm going to make a motion to postpone
Correct.
this particular.
Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asak?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Barwa? Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
That's 10 in the affirmative.
The motion passes. Councilor Rodriguez.
And now I'd like to make a motion that we postponed agenda number 4 to the December 28th meeting of the City Council.
Second.
A motion's been made to postpone till December 28th.
On this
Properly
motion?
seconded. Councilor Cardoso.
So can I amend this to include the stipulation that we extend the host agreement, which we can't do because that's the mayor's? decision, so this is what I mean.
So at that time,
On the motion?
yeah, oh,
She's speaking on
Through-
Counselor Lally,
through,
on the motion.
We have gone forward with applications before dependent on a new host agreement. And this council is the licensing body. So I agree entirely, Councilor Cardozo, that we don't want to give Mr. Woods some kind of false hope. But I think that I would say it isn't false. I would say that if this body makes it clear that this applicant is, we want to give this applicant our 8th license, and this is the person we're going to give that 8th license to, the mayor can sign as many other host agreements as he wants. None of them are going through if this is the applicant we choose. So it would be up to the mayor. So it would.
Thank you.
I think it's a very prudent concern, but I think that we as the licensing body have that in our control, so that if the mayor is hesitant to giving a new host agreement, we would be hesitant to reconsider who we want this to go to. So I think that would have to go to the mayor, but this is still in our court. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Lally, are you, Councilor Cardoso, on the motion?
On the motion, I still disagree, because my fear is that the mayor does not have to extend that host agreement. We know how things go. It's very sad to me that we have an applicant that's prepared tonight to get a license. He's taken classes. He's a social equity applicant. We've only given one person of color a license in this city, and 5 are non-SE applicants. It's so sad to me that these 2 are here in front of us, going through all the hardships that they've gone through to get here. We know the playing field, I said this over and over, is not level, and now they're in front of us, and we could do something to show that Commonwealth has money. They've had 3 years to get this done, and they haven't gotten it done, and now we're postponing his, just like we did Vanessa, and having them come back in front of us. It's just a travesty to me, but I will go with the will of the council.
Are you making the amendment, Counselor? No?
I can't amend it because it's up to the mayor to extend the host agreement, so.
Can we vote to can we have a third? Is there a third option that we can do?
The hearing is over. I apologize, everybody in the audience. The hearing is over.
After this motion, I'd like to make a motion after we vote on this one.
Okay, so a motion was made by Councilor Rodriguez and properly seconded. We're going to have a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asak?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The petition is postponed till December 28th. Councilor Cardoso.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this license tonight, to grant this license tonight.
I understand your enthusiasm, and we're all with you, but we need to just make sure that we do everything the correct way. So, I'm sorry? Technically, ma'am, the hearing is over, please. Ma'am, the hearing is over. We're speaking with counselors.
Move to reconsider the previous motion.
Move to reconsider, yeah. And explain that you would like to see this. That's how you would procedurally be able to make it.
Okay.
Councilor Cardoso.
So I move to reconsider the previous motion in,
Yeah, you would need to make a motion to reconsider that previous motion in order to submit the motion you want.
okay, so move to reconsider the previous motion.
Okay. There wasn't a second on the first one, though. Oh, she did? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Counselors, ladies and gentlemen, please, the counselor is with you withdrew your previous motion, and it was properly seconded. All those in favor of withdrawing, do we need to vote? We don't need to vote on the, all those in favor of reconsideration?
If you want to reconsider your vote, raise your hand yes.
The previous vote, yes, so reconsidering the previous vote,
We didn't,
the postponement.
Correct.
oh, the postponement,
So
okay.
anyone who's in favor of reconsideration of the previous vote, raise your hand yes.
Anyone who's in favor of reconsidering the previous vote, please raise your hand. Okay, reconsideration fails. Okay. Mr. Clerk, number 5.
So, Madam President, can you explain to?
sorry, Counselor.
Can you explain to the audience what just happened? Because they're still waiting.
Counselor Cardoso made a motion, and then she voted against the previous motion of having this petition be postponed to December 28th. And the motion failed. We will be back here on December 28th.
Thank you.
Good.
So,
So, thank you very much, gentlemen.
thank you.
We have the appointment of James Cook, 3 Carriage House Drive, Lakeville, to the position of building superintendent of the Public Property Department for the City of Brockton for a 3-year term ending November 2020.
Refer to finance.
We have a communication from the mayor requesting a waiver under section 2-10 of the ordinances of the
Please leave silently out of the council chambers.
on behalf of James Clough of the Building Department.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have communication from the Emergency Management Director requesting the approval of a grant award in the amount of $25,600 from the fiscal 20 Emergency Management Preparedness Grant. This funding will be used for a portable lighting trailer for the fire department and radio equipment to expand the BEMA and school 911 radio infrastructure. No match is required.
Accepted and placed on file.
The mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the chief of the police department requesting authorization to expend $1,000 in donated funds from the C. Carney Environmental to be used to purchase equipment for K-9 related needs.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the grant coordinator of the police department requesting authorization to expend grant monies related to the fiscal 2020 U.S. Department of Justice Bulletproof Vest Program grant in the amount of $13,265. There is no required match for these funds.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have unfinished business, an appointment of Ray Burke at 81 Watkins Street, Brockton, trustee of War Memorial, City of Brockton for a 3-year term, in council October 26, 2020. Reading referred to Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on confirmation by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asek?
Yes.
Cardozo? Cruz?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
DeCastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
The appointment. The reappointment of Kenneth Galligan of 25 Messina Drive, Brockton, to the Traffic Commission pursuant to City of Brockton Ordinance, Section 466, for a term of 3 years. Prior term ended September 2020. In council October 26, 2020. Read and referred to Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on confirmation by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asek?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Ken Galligan.
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Appropriation of $68,703 from Plymouth County U.S. Department of Justice, fiscal 20, Justice Assistant Grant, to Police Department, fiscal 20, Justice Assistant Grant Fund. In council, October 26, 2020. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
An order appropriation of $150,000 from unappropriated estimate receipts to information technology telephone. In council, October 26, 2020. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Order that the sum of $2 million appropriated to pay costs for replacing water transmission main piping and valves, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 8, Paragraph 5, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city therefore. All or any portion of this borrowing may be obtained through the Mass Clean Water Trust, the trust. Any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this order, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this order in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. Further ordered that the city treasurer is authorized to file an application with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Municipal Board Municipal Finance Oversight Board to qualify under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44A, any and all bonds or notes of the city authorized by this vote, and to provide such information and execute such documents as the Municipal Finance Oversight Board of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts may require. In council, October 13, 2020. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on passage to a third reading by a hand vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The order passes
We have
to a third reading.
Resolved to invite the mayor to come before the committee of this council to discuss what has taken place to replace Bob Mealy as Executive Director of the Parking Authority. In council, October 26, 2020. Reading for the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asak,
Yes.
Cardozo,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Ianieri,
Yes.
Farwell,
Yes.
Lally,
Yes.
Mendez,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Nicastro,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Ordered that the City Council hereby declare the city-owned parcel at West Elm Street, Brockton, Mass., known as Keith Field, Assessors Map 58, Route 71-1, Plot 56, being the same premises shown on Plan of Land in Brockton, June 12, 1920, Haywood and Haywood Surveyors, 28 Main Street, Brockton, filed with Plymouth County Land Court Records as surplus and available for disposition. In City Council, October 13, 2020, read and refer to the Standing Committee on Real Estate. That report was favorable as amended.
Counselor, before you make a statement, I just want to let the counselors know that the vice chair of the school committee did send an email asking if we could postpone this item.
Make a
So,
motion to postpone till the next finance meeting.
Second.
On the motion.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Madam President, I think there's a variety of questions regarding this particular agenda item. What actually frightens me a little bit is that we had a Brocktonian who wanted to make a substantial donation to the city for the development of sports fields here in the city. And I believe one of the issues that are taking place here is there's some questions in terms of ownership of this field. That it's a field perhaps not totally owned by the city, but managed by the folks that are watching the Patriots game, that shouldn't be watching the Patriots game during the council meeting. Council Monahan. So if there's an issue with the ownership of the field, I believe that by postponing this particular agenda item, we are delaying this process further and further into the end of the year. So I think it probably would make sense for us to carry out either a discussion with the school committee for the school committee to act on this particular thing, or have us as a council just act on it and move it forward and let it fall what it may. Because I think just postponing and pushing it down the road is not the right answer. And if we are, as councilors who are, we're sitting here pinching every single penny in the city, and if we're put in the process where we end up costing the city $1 million worth of a possible benefit, I don't think it's fair to the taxpayers in this community. So, I mean, I'm looking at the state law of what we're discussing here, and it says that the school committee of the city of Brockton shall have the sole management and control of the athletic field. When I read that, it says shall have management and control of the athletic field. It doesn't say ownership of the parcel of land. So if that's not the case, I think what's wrong with the council just moving this item forward as is and let the next step take place, and if so, where the council doesn't have that authority, then let that authority fall, through the groove or through the cracks or whatever it might fall. But at least we're not delaying this process, because I'm afraid that we're going to keep pushing this thing down the road. January is going to swing by, and we might lose the ability to come back and ask the very important person who actually was willing to donate some funds to help us move this project along.
Councilor Cruz, on your motion.
Thank you. I'm actually, even though I made the motion, I agree very much with Councilor Rodriguez. I do want to let him know that I spoke to and the money that's at stake here is much more than $1 million or $1.5 million. It's more in the $6 to $7 million range for the youth of Brockton. But in respect of the school department possibly misunderstanding what rights there are in this, and I did talk to the funding mechanisms today, and they felt that the 2 weeks is not a problem at all. So in courtesy to the school department, I thought we'd push this off 2 weeks, but and I've been assured that they don't see a problem with
so
this.
as long as we're not jeopardizing that possibility, 'cause
Exactly.
that's just unforgivable.
I would agree completely.
A motion was made and properly seconded.
Madam Chair?
Councilor Fowler.
Yeah, through you to Councilor Cruz and Councilor Rodriguez. Now that we've mentioned this $6 to $7 million windfall, let's be fully transparent. Let's get some information out there as who is the alleged donor and what restrictions, if any, might be placed on that funding to the city. Because when this land was given to the city by the Keith family in honor of Eldon Keith, they had certain restrictions. The city agreed to them. A state law was passed. So let's get all the information out there, because frankly, I'm in favor of building a field there. I'd rather see the city pay for it. I'm really not interested in being jerked around like a puppet over a potential donation to the city. Let's do what's right for the city of Brockton. That field is the last remaining large green space in the center of this city. And in my opinion, it should be controlled by the city. We should build what we need to build there. We should pay for it and not be distracted by, well, someone may give us $1 million. Well, now it's up to $6 to $7 million. So let's get all the information out there, and I hope someone, before this comes back in, will give us a summation of who's donating what and under what conditions. Thank you.
Counselor Cruz.
Just so the councilor knows, that's all part of an RFP that will have to come out of the mayor's office, and all that information would be in the RFP. This was simply one tiny step. What we were voting on tonight, and we're going to push off to 2 weeks, is would lose no control of this land. It only starts a conversation and a process. But, and I'm glad that you'd rather see the city spend that money than get it donated. Thank you. I move the question.
The question is on the amendment.
No, question
Oh,
on
I'm sorry, to postpone. All those in favor of postponing? All those opposed? The order is postponed for 2 weeks.
From the mayor, recommending the city council authorize the mayor to execute the grant of easement and take other action necessary to carry out the terms, purposes, and conditions of the same to the Mass Electric Company for an underground electric distribution system located on the southerly side of Crescent Street at parcel 110-016 and parcel 110-017, more particularly as described in the grant of easement. End council, October 13, 2020. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Real Estate. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Asek?
Yes.
Cardozo?
Yes.
Cruz?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Mendez?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
An ordinance amending Part 2 of the revised ordinances, Chapter 21, taxi cabs, buses, etc., be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton, Section 21-11, Paragraph A, shall be amended.
Referred to ordinance.
Acceptance and expenditures of the donation in the amount of $1,000 from C County Environmental to Police Department, no match required.
Referred to finance.
Ordered acceptance and expenditures of the grant award in the amount of $25,600 from Mass Emergency Management Agency, Fiscal 20 Emergency Management Preparedness Grant, the City of Brockton Emergency Management Fiscal 20 Emergency Management Preparedness Grant Fund.
Referred to finance.
Acceptance and expenditures of the grant award in the amount of $13,265 from the U.S. Department of Justice, Fiscal 2020 Patrick Leahy Bill-Approved Vest Partnership Grant to Police Department, Fiscal 2020 Patrick Leahy Bill-Approved Vest Partnership Grant Fund.
Referred to finance.
Order the City Council reviews an exemption from the residency requirement in accordance with the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton, Article 3, Section 2-110, City of Brockton Ordinance, Waiver of Residency, in reference to James Plouffe for the Building Department.
Referred to finance.
Resolved to invite Ms. Joanne Zygmunt of Brockton, as she serves as chair of the Central Plymouth County Water District Commission, to come before a committee of this council to discuss current work and projects of the commission, including, without limitation, a proposed water monitoring program for Silver Lake.
Referred to finance.
Resolved to invite Mr. John O'Donnell, as he is a chairperson of the Brockton Board of Assessors, and any other persons he wishes to accompany him, to come before a committee of this council to discuss the results of the recent comprehensive reassessment of all classes of property in the City of Brockton, the resultant proposed 2021 property valuations, and information related to the valuation and tax rates.
Referred to finance. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. I just want to congratulate all of the voters in the City of Brockton for a terrific turnout last Tuesday. Of the more than 60,000 registered voters in the city, about 62% turned out. And that was just terrific. I congratulate all the voters, and thank you, and let's have that kind of a turnout next year. And the second thing is, I want to say thank you to veterans and those currently enlisted in the military service from the City of Brockton. Thank you for serving in advance of Veterans Day. Thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like permission to file a late file.
Second.
A motion's been made to accept a late file and properly seconded. All those in favor of the late file? Anyone opposed? Late
Madam
file.
President, we just witnessed at the beginning of this meeting the issues regarding retail marijuana licenses in the city. Therefore, I'd like to file a resolve to invite the Director of Planning, the Chairperson, the Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Planning Board to come in front of this body as a means to inform the public of the lack of the availability of adult-use retail marijuana licenses in the city of Brockton. So we can clarify this issue so that people out in the community understand that we have X, Y, and Z number of licenses, and this entire city government is on board to decide what we have, what we don't have to offer, so that we don't have to endure what we just endured here today.
Thank you, Counselor. So that will be referred to Finance. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to remind everybody that on Veterans Day, November 11th, the city will be having a memorial at the Legion Parkway Veterans Memorial. That's at the top of Legion and Warren. That's going to happen at 10 a.m. And so I just want to make all residents aware of that small ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Thompson. Counselor Ianieri.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to remind the members of the Accounts Committee that we'll be meeting next Monday, November 16th, 2020, 5:30 p.m. at the GAR room. That's next Monday before the Finance meeting at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Ianieri. Any other counselors? I know that a few counselors have touched on Veterans Day. It is Wednesday, November 11th. Even though this year we won't be celebrating with a parade or large gatherings, I would like to just express our thoughts to all our veterans that we're thinking of them and thank them for their service to our country. With no further business before us this evening, this meeting's adjourned.